I've had my Portal for nearly 4 months now, and I still consider it pretty much my favourite handheld I've ever owned. Since its release, we've had new releases such as the Retro Pocket Flip 2 and the Classic, but nothing has shaken me from believing I don't think anything is going to topple this anytime soon. It's one of the larger handhelds, but its weight is incredible for its size, and since I often travel with a bag, it really doesn't bother me to slip it in the pouch that came with my device, even with the grip still attached, and just slide it in my bag. It's thin enough to not get in the way of other things in my bag, and I honestly don't worry about its condition either. I use the grip 100% of the time, and I think it's a great grip. It fits really nice into the palm of your hand, and it's very comfy. Personally, I'm not that bothered about playing with it without the grip. I've said before, I appreciate the size and design, and I can see certain people having no problem playing it. But there's really no question that the grip is fantastic and makes longer play sessions very, very comfortable. Since January, I haven't had a single scratch or mark on the screen or glass front that I can see. I don't use the screen protector because I think it looks weird and it doesn't cover the entire device. There are ones you can buy that do, but honestly I'd be worried about a hard enough knock to crack the glass rather than it somehow getting scratched by something, so I still don't think I need one. And I don't mind there being some fingerprint marks as it's really easy to wipe and clean when necessary. The only thing I've worried a little about so far is how much I've clicked the left stick in with the games I've played that require me to, and it's starting to sound a little different to the right stick. After looking at some teardowns, it looks as if the sticks are the same as the Odin 2s, which you can buy replacements for on their site, or even swap them from your original Odin 2 if necessary. But I'm not 100% sure about this. So I've not lost any functionality or anything, but yeah, as long as it's replaceable, it's really a non-issue for me. After seeing some more people talking about their portals, there are a lot of people who say the face buttons are too loud. They are sort of loud if you slap away at them, and if you are trying a game very quietly at night, then yeah, there's no way around it other than buying some custom buttons to replace them. I'd worry about how they felt, but it's been proven that custom buttons dramatically reduce the sound. For my use case, I have a good hold of the device and I don't mash away at the buttons, and with the volume of the speakers I can't say I've ever said to myself the button sound was a problem. The only big issue I've had was because I needed to open the device up to clean a speaker that somehow got a bit of moisture or water inside, which was easily dried and solved. If you open your Portal up, make sure you remove the SD card first before doing so, and don't insert it until it's put back together again. This is something that is recommended when opening a device, but I've never taken the SD card out first when I've opened many of my devices over and over again. This is the first device where when I put the shell back on, there was a piece in the shell that I assume helps guide the SD card into the slot, and that piece crushed the back of the SD card and snapped it. So I lost a 1.5 terabyte SD card just for trying to fix a speaker. I immediately cut and sanded off the plastic that caused that, and it's such a weird decision to have added that to the design. It's not affected me in any way losing it, but it's also a non-issue if you just remove your card before opening your device. So why am I using this over every other device that I have? I've already said in my other videos of the Portal that the price is verging on getting a decent Steam Deck instead, and I can see a good amount of people choosing that. But over months of use, it's only been affirmed for me that the combination of the amazing 7-inch OLED screen with the power to do a lot of great emulation and Android gaming, even play some PS3 and 360 era titles through Winlater, and streaming more modern titles through Game Pass and apps for consoles and PC, with the comfort and weight of a device I can literally play all day without my hands tiring or wishing the device was lighter. I just couldn't be happier with the Portal. I even have the Ioneo Geek One S, which is a Windows PC that is smaller and of similar weight to the deck, and it took a good while to get used to the weight and ergonomics. And with the battery being used within a couple of hours for more demanding titles, it was almost a relief to stop playing and let it charge, and maybe some deck users feel the same. But with the Portal, I can game for hours and hours before charging, and thankfully it charges quite quickly. My most recent example of gaming for long periods was streaming Clair Obscur Expedition 33 using Artemis and Apollo from my gaming PC to the Portal. I was pretty much just laying in bed for hours and hours, and nearly my entire playtime was on the Portal alone. Now, I don't even have a great setup for streaming, as my gaming PC is in a room that has power adapters to connect to my network, and it's not getting great speed even then. But I was still able to stream upstairs and play the game smoothly at 1080p at a pretty good quality as long as nothing interfered. And I was so happy that I got to do that on the Portal. I got to relax a lot more and enjoy the game on a handheld as I had shows or Twitch or something in the background. When it comes to emulation, I'm not really up to speed on where Winlator is now, and I have been updating GameHub when it prompts me to. So maybe Windows emulation is even better than when I last covered it, but what I was able to do a few months ago was pretty fantastic. I didn't even keep everything I installed, but it's still pretty mind-blowing to me to be able to emulate, say, Dark Souls 3 and Grand Theft Auto 5 just on the device itself. I didn't expect Dark Souls 3 to work, but at 720p I was able to get through several areas of the game at a fairly steady 30 frames per second, so I considered it very playable, and it looked pretty good the entire time too. I did some more testing with GTA 5 as well, as I've experienced crashing before and I've heard some people talk about memory leak issues. So I messed around trying to steal a jet and fly around the city to see if it would crash, and spawned in a helicopter to cause some chaos, and it didn't crash once on me, so I was just having a great time messing around. Something I've really liked about the Portal is that it's actually really good for using outdoors if the game is bright enough. Up until now, I haven't had a device I think I could use outside the way I would like. And it's still not perfect, but with the Portal I could actually sunbathe outside. I actually hate sunbathing as I get really bored just laying out in the sun, and I don't really like just laying there listening to stuff either. So it's been a bit of a godsend to be able to lay outside and get a tan playing some games. So as long as it's on its highest brightness and you have a game that doesn't get dark too much, it's super good for that. And I don't know if I should admit this, but I got back into Fortnite, and I have to say the Android version of Fortnite is really good. I have my settings on high, so it looks a lot better than the Switch version, and it's performing at 60 frames per second. The controls in the Portal are amazing for a game like this too. I never felt stifled or held back by how I was holding it or the size and travel of the sticks, so the Portal is a great handheld for a fast-paced game needing you at your best. Unfortunately, there hasn't been any updates to PS3 emulation with RPCSX. It's been a few weeks since the last update, which did actually, I think, add Vulkan support, so games like Demon's Souls actually run a bit smoother now, but because of this, it also has horrible vertex explosion problems, so I'm thinking a game like that is still some updates away from being fully playable on the Portal. But there's still a bunch of games that are playable on here. I wanted to see if Strider could work, because the only other option is by using Winlator or GameHub, but it's still not quite there yet for performance. I also just want to chime in that recently it had been announced that Rocknix can now be used on the Portal. I haven't tried this myself, and I'm not really interested in looking too much into it yet until it's had a bit more development. But basically with Rocknix, it's Linux, and you can play games from emulators you already can on the Android, but one of the other things you can do is also play Xbox games. So that'll be a really exciting thing, and I'm looking forward to see updates on that in the future. But for my own purposes, I'm not ready to use it yet, so I'm not going to cover it until I feel like I want to in the near future, hopefully. Aside from this, there's not a whole lot to say. In terms of performance, we know what the Portal can do because it's the same as the Odin 2. And within the last few months, there hasn't been any substantial releases that would showcase further why the Portal's value has increased. But for high-end emulation, I love how consoles like the PS2 and GameCube look on this when upscaled and when some games are given the high-definition texture treatment. There are games on my mind I'd like to play again, like Shadow Hearts Covenant, and I have many devices now that can play it, but the Portal is hands down the one I'd go to experience it again. And the amount of Switch emulation that is possible is really healthy. There's at least one upcoming Switch emulator that could shake up the scene again, so it would be fun to return to some of the more demanding titles and see what their performance is like now, because that could really put the Odin 2 and Portal into a category of an Android handheld where nothing else comes close. So that's a wrap on returning to the Portal for this video. If you have one, what do you think about it? Does anyone still prefer the original Odin 2? Do people still care for their Odin 2 minis? I feel like if they released a version of the Mini with an OLED screen and no bezels, I'd be super tempted to get one, but I don't think that's going to happen. It will be interesting to see if another device will come out this year to topple the Portal, but in my eyes, this one's a beauty and will be a go-to for gaming for a long time coming.